Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King, and today I'm going to be giving you part 7 of What If Naruto Became the Greatest Puppeteer. Remember to get this one to 300 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also stay in tune for What If Naruto Unlock a Strange Power over an Anime King 2 for you guys to enjoy. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you guys enjoy. And also go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto was taken and fused with Zetsu, and enjoy that as well guys. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying and talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last time we left off, Gar was scared as Naruto was marching up towards him. He thought that Naruto was going to kill him, as his body was exhausted at the moment. If Naruto wanted to fight him, he couldn't do exactly anything against Naruto. But Naruto did not fight him. Instead, Naruto spoke to him. As Gar asked him why, he didn't have any friends either and he was just like him. So why did he act this way? As Naruto told him, even if he didn't have any friends, he made friends that would look up to him. As Gar thought about Naruto puppets, the both of them looked at each other, as Gar seemed to understand what Naruto was talking about. His body giving into the stress of the battle and undergoing the transformation, as Gar finally collapsed down, but not after taking Naruto towards the heart. Naruto woke up in the hospital a few days later, as Hiruzen came in there, as Hiruzen got help from Jiraiya to face off against Orochimaru. So he survived the attack from Orochimaru, as they were able to fend Orochimaru off. But Naruto could see something sad, something that the Hiruzen wasn't telling him about, as Naruto was promoted to Chunin, getting out of the hospital, as Naruto went on different missions with different people, as really some of the times he went on missions with Sasuke and Hinata, as things was going well. But Naruto had a goal in mind now. He was going to start a war. Yes, that is exactly what he was going to do. People like Kakashi and other ninjas gain fame from going into war, so he was going to do the same thing and make his name rise to the ranks. As he went on numerous missions until he found out about something that intrigued him. The Shadow Clone technique. Solid clones that last for 6 days. Naruto did not know why he had chakra, more chakra than anyone, but he could make at least 500 clones. So with this, it just made everything more better. As Naruto sent his clones out on missions to kill Kumo ninjas, and then he would use those Kumo ninjas as puppets to attack Konoha ninjas. Yes, he was starting war along the border as things were getting rather heated. But he was going to push everything over the edge now as Hiruzen was not there. So he decided to attack Neji. Before Neji couldn't even know what happened, he was struck. As Naruto found out about the Hyuga, the Byakugan blind spot, as Neji was struck with a tiny needle. As Naruto controlled his movements and got one of the puppets, one of the Kumo puppets, and started to battle Neji, he created a battle scene where Neji was going to be taken as Kumo is coming after the Byakugan once again. Yes, that was his perfect plan. But he never called for her to show up, Hanabi. Hinata left his sister, so Naruto had to knock her out and take her. Hanabi woke up as she was confused where she was as she saw Naruto. She then remembered everything, as Naruto stuck Neji's body into stasis. As everything was going well until that girl showed up, but he had to just play along with it for now, as he didn't know what to do with her yet. Naruto had bought out the entire complex. Seeing that he got the money from Nami, he bought out the entire complex, as Hanabi tried to escape but she nearly died, as Naruto had to come and save her from falling over. After a while, she then stopped reacting. She was just looking up in the ceiling, her eyes looking, well, unusually unresponsive. She wasn't attacking or mixing with his things anymore. He didn't know why, but it was good because he could literally walk around the village now, nor worrying about her getting hurt by attacking or mixing with his puppets. As Naruto found Hinata training, who looked rather different, she was furious, she was angry. She broke down when she saw Naruto do as she started to cry after he spoke to her. Neji and Hanabi was taken, but her father was acting like nothing happened, as it made her quite furious. If they saw her crying right now, they would call her a weakling. So, she could not cry in front of them, as Naruto realized, well, he was the cause of all of this. So yeah guys, that's basically that's where we left off. You guys can switch across to the place and check it out for yourself. So what is begin this new episode? Naruto kneeled down in front of Hinata as he held on to both of her hands. Even though in the situation she blushed a small bit. Then, you don't show them the emotion that they want to rip out of you. You keep that emotion to yourself and let it make you become strong. Stronger than any of them think you can be. But I don't think I can, she said. I am not. She paused. As she looked down. I am not strong as you, she said. Naruto raised his hand and tilted her chin up so their eyes were locked once again. But you are, because you have these feelings. No shinobi ever becomes strong by crushing their emotion. Instead, they harness their feelings. Use them to fuel their strength. Turn that anger on Kumo for stealing away the people that you love. Harness that frustration, never let your family see an inch. And when you become clan head, show them exactly who was it they doubted. By this point, he pulled her back up to her feet, as he was grinning confidently. But most of all, make sure you do these things, because you want it, he said. Hinata was wrapped up by his speech. In turn, Naruto was amazed by the crap that he was, well, spitting out so easily. Because what's the point of being a shinobi if you can't use the skills that you work so hard to get? As he released her hands. Is that easy? She said, looking uncertain, but a bit hopeful. Of course not, Naruto said, causing her to flinch. It's a hard and brutal and unforgiving path. But it is only worth it if it is difficult, he said. As Naruto watches her face going through a ton of emotion. Thank you, Naruto, she said. I think I have a lot to think about. As she then started to walk away. But she then turned and rushed towards him as she hugged him. As he had to calm himself. He nearly attacked her, as that hug was just so spontaneous. When she pulled away, her cheeks were a bit red. But she wasn't the same wreck that she would have been if she had hugged him a few months ago. Thank you, and with that she rushed off, leaving a mildly, well, strange confused Naruto behind. That wasn't fair. He wasn't the one that's supposed to be leaving, confused. Time skip. Get up. Naruto said as he looked on Hanabi. She tilted her eyes towards him but otherwise did nothing. But then she turned her head and looked back at the ceiling. But that look was wiped off her face when Naruto placed his foot right on her stomach and pushed her back. As she landed in a few dangled puppets that she knocked over, she glared over at him. He simply smirked. That was the first bit of fight that he had seen from her in a while now. But her shoulders then slumped as she lied down, lying back down on the puppets like it was her bed. As Naruto stepped forward and crossed distance between them. Stop that, he said, his tone becoming harder. She said. Before she could protest or say anything else, chakra threads were attached to her body as it pulled her and pushed her right into the wall. It wasn't a request, said Naruto. What's your problem, she muttered. Sloth, said Naruto. You're only irritating me with all of this moping around. Hanabi slowly picked herself up as she brushed some dust from her clothes. Well, what do you want me to do, huh? I'm already a prisoner here, and now my irritation for just existing? What more? What more do you want to take away from me, she asked. Your existence isn't the issue. Your waste of it is what irritates me, said Naruto, causing her eyebrow to twitch. Well, sorry then, she said, with venom in her voice. I'll go and make better use of my life in my other kidnapper's apartment, she shouted. There are training facilities in the complex. Why aren't you using them, said Naruto. That seemed to catch Hanabi off guard. What? She said. You are a shinobi, right? A capture one no less, and you have an era where you can train and improve your skills. Why aren't you using them, he said, in a lecturing tone. You're my kidnapper. You would stop me. Have I ever shown any indications of stopping you from doing anything before, other than leaving, he asked. But why? Why would you want me to train? Wouldn't that be counterproductive to you? Wouldn't that make me more dangerous? There was genuine confusion in her tone and she didn't understand. But that turned to irritation when Naruto simply scoffed at her words. That would imply that I see you as a threat at all. But no, I will let you do this because you're a shinobi. It's disgusting to see you just waste away your potential. No matter how minimal it is, he said. What do you mean by that, she asked. Take it as you will, he says. He patted her on the head once. She lashed out with a chakra strike, but Naruto tilted his body as he caught her arm under his armpit and head-butted her right in the forehead. See, he says he backed off as she rubbed her forehead. Maybe if you were training, you'd have been able to dodge that. She glared at him with her shoulders slumped. What's the point, she said. I cannot train my clan techniques anymore. How am I supposed to become strong enough to defeat you? You really see me as someone strong, don't you? Of course, she said, as she was rather confused about the question though. How else would you defeat Neji? You've already given up then, he asked. You don't get to tell me that, she said. I'm not even a real shinobi yet. Why, are you treating me like one? Naruto walked past her as he slipped into his chair and rolled his eyes. Don't give me that, a clan child like you. You were probably being trained right after you began to walk. What was it, 3, 4 years old? You've been training for what your clan wants you to be for years. You never had any other choice but to be a kunoichi. You are no less a shinobi than I am. I see no other reason to treat you differently. Hanabi seemed at a loss for words. But my clan technique, she said. You still don't understand, said Naruto. Whatever, I helped you enough, he said, as he got to his feet and walked towards the door. As he walked out and slammed the door. You call that helping, she said. Naruto didn't return for a good few hours, and when he did, he found Hanabi sitting on her futon, her expression looking a rather thoughtful look. As she was just looking at the closed window, suddenly, the window was thrown up as she fell back. Yo, said Kakashi, as he was sitting on the window still. As she narrowed her eyes, there was a pause. Hanabi looked over, but Naruto didn't really seem concerned about anything. You're Kakashi Hatake, a Jonin, she said. As Kakashi simply turned and looked towards Naruto. You have what I asked for, Naruto asked. Kakashi threw a scroll as Naruto caught it. Wonderful, said Naruto, as he turned his attention to the scroll and spun her on his chair. At this point, Hanabi was confused. What are you doing, she said. What do you mean, said Kakashi. You are Konoha Shinobi. Rescue me from this place, she said. I guess you're half right. And with that, Kakashi's body melted away to show a puppet that she has seen around here many times. Damn it. As a chuckling clone jumped through the window and came inside, locking the window behind him. There was no need to taunt her, said Naruto, the original. The clone simply smirked as he guided Dame back to the ramp and placed him up. I couldn't resist, as he then poofed away. As Naruto then nodded, as he got to his feet. Here, he said, as he gave her the scroll. The Jayugen, all of its stances, and all of the techniques of the main house. Just as you asked for. As Naruto left the room, Hanabi looked down the priceless artifact that was just placed in her hand. As she slowly opened it, it was true. As she dropped the scroll. This is a nightmare, she said. It has to be a nightmare, right? Time skip, Ensu hugged his jacket around him tightly. He was used to the winds of Kumo, but he wasn't used to the coldness of Frost Country. He just wanted this to be over so he can head back. As he paced along the width of the small mountain pass, there was 100 other routes through these mountains, but this was one of the best for merchants to travel through. Comfortable, right? The civilians didn't know that they were at war. Well, the shinobis want to keep the civilians out of it. So, for Ensui, he just had to be paranoid, watching out, and just make sure that no Konoha ninja would drive a sword into his back. Leaf bastards. Bad enough they had to attack Kumo and start this stupid war. But he couldn't even get assigned to the border, where the actual thing was going on, and kill some leaf ninjas and get a promotion. As he sighed and turned, and started his loop again, Ashi should be taking over any moment. She was already 5 minutes late, but that was Ashi for you. As 5 more minutes passed, he started to get worried, but more agitated. This was just like them, leaving him out here all alone, just like his goddamn squad. As he grunted, looking back out in the darkness before marching back up to the camp. As he walked towards the fire, his eyes started to adjust to the bright light, until something dropped from above right into the fire. It drifted like a leaf, but if anyone was alert enough, they would have knew that no wind could have blown a leaf so far into the camp. The entire place lit up like it was midday, as he had to close his eyes and step back. But even through his eyelids, everything was still white. For a split second, his mind started to panic, wondering if he was blind. He then felt something wrapped around his throat, as the ninja wire started to lift him off the ground. He could only struggle for a moment. The wire was too deep in his skin. He couldn't grasp it or anything, as his vision started to become black and dark. At the very last second, when he thought he was going to die, he felt the thing loosen as he collapsed to the ground. But he passed out before he could do anything else. Figures then dropped down. Well, that took goddamn ages. I thought you said Kumo procedure was to check up on the patrol every minute or two. It is, another figure said, as the Kumo ninjas start to be gathered up. It is. But it seemed like this guy, well, took some extra time. You can just admit that you're wrong, right? You know that, the first one said. Yes, because my plan was such a failure, as a raccoon, the puppet, was snatching the shinobis to the side. We should have just attacked them, the other one said. That's always your plan. Shut up. You were thinking it too. His plans are so long. As all of the ninjas were injected with a sleeping agent. Can you guys just be quiet? There is no reason to argue over this. The mission is complete and our squad leader was correct. So can we get out of this snow already? Whatever, the other one said. Time skip. Hanbei watched with curiosity as Naruto and his clones were working around a rather large device that they have been working on for the past few days. It looked like a clothing press. It was something that she saw the clan members using the clean clothing back at the compound. As Naruto then walked past, as he went for a black metal, a rod, and placed it on the machine. What are you doing? She asked. She couldn't help it. Normally, she stayed out of his way. She would read the books that he brought her or train in one of the less used storage room. But he was strangely possessed while he was working on this. It got her rather curious. Trying something that I'm almost certain will fail, he said as he looked back, checking if the clamps were tight. Then, why do it, she said. She knew that if he didn't want to tell her, he wouldn't tell her anything. Because I did something stupid, and now I have to fix a mistake. He made a sign as two clones poof into existence around the machine. I convinced your sister that I did something impossible, so now I have to actually do it, or risk being exposed. As she looked at the black rod, that's chakra conducting metal, isn't it? A fair amount too. It's supposed to be very expensive. Her father had a supply of it for any Hyuga members who want to take up weapon user, because he would only have the best for the Hyugas. I'm not exactly hurting for money, Naruto said, as he motioned for his clones to begin, as he started to turn the crank. The machine started to twist, as the gears started to rotate. The metal started to bend and groan and being pulled. When the rod was pulled to twice its size, there was a shaking sound, as it was snapped in half. The two ends radiating a small red glow from the strain. As Naruto clicked his teeth in irritation, chakra metal cannot be forged or work like regular steel. I need to find a way to turn it into small, thin wires to imitate a human chakra system. Hanabi scoffed. That's impossible, she said. Surprisingly, he didn't disagree with her. He just motioned for his clone to disable the machine. So is learning another village art from scratch, without any help. Or so I've been told, he said. Time skip. Mission report. Rank B. Mid-value assassination target. Heito Anzaki. As we now find Heito, as he was walking, he stumbled as he nearly fell, but he caught himself in time. He has been doing that a lot lately. It was unusual because he was always a graceful man. He used that as a part of his overall image. He knew that he was handsome, but looks are not everything in the merchant world. Still, it helped with his facade. He was a brilliant merchant with a lot of confidence to step into a room and get respect by others. But for the past week, things have been strange. It had started with slight tremors in his hand. Holding up a cup in a meeting, he almost spilled the tea. Then his skin started to pale. He thought that it was some illness, so he called in a medic, but they didn't find anything. They told him that it was stress. Stress? Heito was not one to get stress. People. He made people stress. It had only gotten worse from there though. He would notice strange floating phantoms behind him, but the moment he turned they were gone. Like he was losing his goddamn mind, as he always questioned himself if he saw anything at all. It was then that he realized he was being poisoned, that someone was out there to get him. A hired killer, a shinobi no doubt. He knew that he shouldn't have gotten wrapped up with Kumo, but their deal was so good. He hired food tasters, but none of them got his symptoms. He called doctors, better doctors, but nothing. He was in perfect health. Then what the hell was wrong with him? He only started to eat food that he just purchased, so he could not be poisoned. He began missing meeting with clients. These people were trying to kill him. Probably know his schedule, so he started to throw them off. As he walked, he stumbled again, a strange sensation going up his leg. Suddenly, his throat felt unbearably dry. As he needed some water, he moved forward into the room. As he reached for a picture that he kept by his bed, only to see a shadow fly past the wall. Something at the window as he spun around, but he only tripped on a loose floorboard as he collapsed onto the ground. His eyes glanced up, but whatever was at the window was gone. Well, that is if it was only there at all. No, he wasn't going mad. He refused to believe so. Someone was after him. Someone was doing this. But no one believed him. He was losing credibility. He was losing control. People think that he was getting insane. Suddenly, another shooting pain went up his leg, this time going straight into his arm. But it didn't pass. His arm started to tingle a strange sensation in the left side of his chest. He only had a chance to widen his eyes as his heart gave out. He collapsed to the floor dead. On the outskirts of the town, Naruto sat in the tallest tree. Beside him, a cup of tea, as he was looking through his binoculars. As he took a sip of his tea, making sure that the poison has taken its toll. As it was a dosage, one of them started to block the brain, making it feel paranoid, making it hard to think. Another one that forced a lot of oxygen in the blood, causing the outward symptoms to his skin. And the last one that caused an increase in muscle symptoms. This spiked the amount of oxygen that he would need, but the victim wouldn't get it because his body thinks that he needs more oxygen, so it will suffocate from within and die. Tomorrow, Hayato will be found, and everyone will declare that he had a panic-induced heart attack. It might have taken a little longer than most assassinations, but no one will ever know that there was someone behind this at all. He smiles as he finishes his tea, as he seated with the cup and jumped down. Kumo will still suspect foul play, but that was all part of the plan. Time skip. Hanabi was almost certain that Naruto hasn't moved from his desk in an hour. As he came in and just sit down, ever so often his hand would glow with a green light. As she then hear him grunt in annoyance, before he lowered back his hand. As she then saw him extend chakra threads from his hand. As he made a puppet walked over, he was trying to still cut the thing in small vines, but it wasn't working for him. She wondered how he did that. All Hyuga learned how to push chakra out of their points. The most she saw anyone ever do was, well, what Neji did, but her father could do it too with the rotation. She tried, but only a misty white cloud came out. How did he bend it into a thread? How do you do that, she asked. Either he had the chakra control of Tsunade Senju, or there was some trick to it. I thought Hyugas didn't use techniques outside the Jayugen, he asked. She huffed and crossed her arms over her chest as she glared back at him. It's academic curiosity after all. It's not like I have anything better to do, she said. There's always something better to do, he said, not even looking at her. I'm sorry, she said. I was just interested. Because she knew sometime he would just simply ignore her, and that wasn't what she wanted right now. You have to spin the chakra like you're making ramen, he said. Ramen? She said, confused. He was talking about the noodles. She looked back at her hand as she tried to spin the chakra. A small strand extended down from her finger. Her eyes went wide. Was it really that easy? She never noticed the sudden look that Naruto gave her as she started to play with the small thread. Timeskip, mission, rank A, operative, tuning squad, purpose, destruction, destroying a bridge that supplied Kumo, encampment from the port. Two figures were watching the bridge. This is stupid, said Aizumo in a hushed whisper. Why aren't we just blowing up the bridge? This way take ages, and the longer we're here, the more likely we are to get caught. He winked when Katetsu slapped him back his head. Were you not listening to the plan? Or are you always this brain dead? Aizumo was about to say something, but Katetsu held up his hand. Don't even answer that, idiot. I know you long enough to know the answer. I still don't like, said Aizumo, as he kept an eye on the shinobis on the bridge. They made him nervous, a full company of Kumo ninjas, 20 of them. And this was the lowest their number has been since they started to stake the bridge out. Why did that shrimp get to be squad leader anyway? We're both older and more experienced than him. Would you want to argue with him about it, asked Tetsu, keeping his eye on the left side of the bridge waiting for their signal. Aizumo just shivered. He found Naruto creepy with his pale skin and shadowy eyes. And then there was his puppets. Shh, said Katetsu, as he did notice a glint from down below. 1, 2, 1, 3. That was the signal, as he whistled, mimicking a bird. Suddenly, there was a huge breeze that went over the bridge. Most of the Kumo ninja closed their eyes for a second. In that moment, a single shadow appeared beside the Konoha Shunins. We all sat near to ask his eyes, looking over the Kumo ninjas. All good, said Katetsu. Satoshi gave his signal a few minutes ago. Naruto nodded as his fingers worked under his sleeve. It was difficult without a direct sideline to his puppets, but he had the feeling he knew how to do it. They waited a few minutes until Katetsu spotted another glint of light. After verifying the pattern, they once again created another distraction for their teammate to get back. This time it was Naruto throwing his voice all around to imitate a large lion. As it diverted the guards' attention for Satoshi to make it up to them without being seen. It is placed 22 minutes to the second. I hope you have your timings right, he whispered. I always get my timings right, said Naruto. Come on, we should retreat to a better vantage point. The bridge was well crafted and built. If they had tried to take it out by brute force just running in the air, it would have taken a lot to blow it up. And the Kumo ninjas might have gotten reinforcements. So Naruto decided that they weren't going to blow it up. They had spent the last week using Satoshi's skills, as they have been slicing right through the concrete with his wind nature. As Naruto placed the sap that he used from Arakon, that he used against Gaara, and it would last for 30 minutes. At the same time, Satoshi was climbing under the bridge a minute ago to place a small speaker right under it. As they timed everything perfect, as they made their way up to the hill, suddenly the speaker went off. The ninjas all sprint into attack, thinking that they were being surrounded or being attacked. As all of them rushed towards the center of the bridge, looking around to try to find their enemies, the Kumo ninjas looking around strained their eyes. But then, the center of the bridge started to crack, before it snapped open. As the weight, it couldn't bear all of them, as they started to fall. Only one of the guards jumped off the bridge in time, the rest of them tumbling down, with the entire thing breaking down as well. As Naruto team only stayed long enough to see the first second fall, before sprinting off in the other direction, because eventually trackers would be sent after them. But Izumo and Kitetsu had threw off their trail, so the group will be back in Konoha before the Kumo ninjas even pick up the real trail. As Izumo felt a tap on his shoulder, as he looked to see Kitetsu behind him. As Izumo grumbled before pulling out 50 Ryu, as he handed over towards Kitetsu. He's still a shrimp, he said. Time skip. Hanabi took a moment to control her breathing before she walked into the workshop. That is what she called it anyway, because Naruto never named any of his rooms. She hates showing weakness in front of him. But she was exhausted after a long training session. She was getting stronger and not showing any weakness. Or maybe that is what she's telling herself, because she hasn't tried to escape in at least a week now. No, get stronger then escape. He was a fool to make her train like this. One day he's going to slip and then she will have her way. Until then she will learn as much as she can, what she can to grow stronger. Even his techniques, everything she learned about him, being a puppeteer got her one step closer to beating him. As she released a calm breath before she walked in to see him working on one of his puppets on the workbench. Odd, for the past few months he has been working on that chakra wire thing. She never saw him give up on anything before. She moved closer to see what he was working on, to nearly gag. It wasn't a puppet arm at all, it was a severed human limb. He was slowly dissecting the arm. A pale green glow, he had a chakra scalpel around his hand as he was cutting into the dead flesh. What the hell are you doing, she said, as she tried not to puke. But Naruto did not react, as he lifted the tissue up before clamping something down. Only then he turned towards her, as he had a strange construction on his left eye. It was a glass eye piece, with small seals all written all over it. The chakra scalpel didn't work. I managed to shave off the metal, but all that gave me was tiny ribbons, he said, ignoring the look on her face. For some reason that doesn't act as a decent conductor anymore, so I'm having a look at a chakra network, the actual one, to see where I went wrong. As he raised the eyebrow, seeing the look on her face same way. Not all of us has a dojo like you, so I have to do it the old-fashioned way. You didn't, she said, as she pointed the arm. What, he said. Steal someone off the street to slice him for my mad experiments. What do you take me for, girl? As he sounded genuine, as she felt a bit, surprised, that she felt guilty for jumping to conclusions so quickly. He may have kidnapped her, but that was a, mistake, as he said. He has never done anything so gruesome. Why would I do that, he said, when there are so many Kumo ninjas lined up for the honor? Her eyes widened in horror as she glanced away from him. He then burst out laughing. I'm kidding, he said. I request a cadaver from the hospital, as he removed the contraption from his eye. Jeez, always thinking the worst of me, aren't you? Well, it's not like you're swimming in good traits, warmonger, she said. I suppose I deserve that, he said, as he got up. As he went past her, she stepped forward as she picked up the device. As she tried to look through one of the lens, she was amazed to find the view of the wall farly magnified. She tried another so she could make out the individual grains across the room. She supposed a seal make up for that point, as she could see the depths of everything with these things. She still didn't know about Fuinjutsu to tell exactly what they did, but they looked quite complex. Frustrating enough, she thought that he would teach her. Yes, if she just asked him, but she just didn't want it to. Did you make these? She asked instead. What, the glasses? Nah, he said as he was going through the fridge. I wouldn't even thought to make something like that. I found them in the crypto analysis department by accident. Found? She asked. But he didn't elaborate anymore. She glanced on the arm again. It didn't seem so intimidating anymore. That she knew that it was a medical cadaver. It was a weird feeling, but the fact that this person had literally donated their body so it can be practiced on, made it better. How can you be so calm about death? As he came back and sit down, she asked, I don't know, but if you haven't noticed, our job is pretty much killer for hire. Or do they sugar that up in the Hyuga clan? I think they sugar that up for most 11-year-olds. Oh, I keep forgetting that you're so young, he said. Still, gotta get used to the reality of it eventually. She just sighed as she went away. As she sat down on her bed, she wanted to sleep, she didn't even feel hungry anymore. Why? What's the matter of it, she said. If I'm just gonna be locked in here forever, she said. As she didn't notice that Naruto paused just a bit, as she buried her face in her pillow. Time skip, mission, rank A, capture, Kyatsu, son of Acting Lightning Daimyo. To use for eventual bargaining chip. Currently being held in secure location, under rotated guard, at least one Jonin there at all times. The rafters didn't provide enough room. Naruto was sure if he was a big adult, he wouldn't be able to fit through them like this. And it was a bit snug, because he has been growing recently, getting a bit taller. As he maneuvered himself in the position, going slow to not make a sound. Rafters in place like this were extra noisy, so he had to be careful not to make a single sound. It didn't help that one of the guards would always come in. But the good thing was that the daimyo kid took space from his protectors, not to want to be so close to them all the time. In position, he twitched a finger, causing Raimia, who was in the woods, outside the small safe house, to make some rustles in the bushes, as he saw one of the silhouettes move off to check what was going on. But then a Jonin poked his head around the wall. Is everything alright, Kyatsu-sama? The noble boy snorted. As fine as it was the last 7 dozen times you asked, Shinobi-san, I am sure it's fine. The Kumo ninja grunted at the boy's attitude, but he said nothing more and slipped back out. As Naruto's finger twitched and 5 tiny copies of Arakun, smaller than the usual one, made their way. As they came out of his clothes, they looked like spiders, small spiders, more than their big counterpart. They didn't even make a whisper as they spread around the room, as they went and sealed the door with their sticky webs. It will take at least a couple of seconds for, well, a well-built ninja to get through. The last of the puppets sneaked over towards Noble himself, as it was coated in a sleeping agent that would quickly absorb through the skin. Both Raimi and the real Araku was outside. All you have to do was grab the kid before the Jonin got on. The kid started to stir, as Naruto slipped off the raft, as he flipped and landed on the mat that the noble boy was on, knowing that any other one of these could be booby-trapped. As he reached out for the boy burst into electricity, shocking Naruto as his muscles started to seize up. In the same moment, 10 ninjas, including the Jonin, burst into the room from the walls and the panels on the floor. Each had a weapon raised, pointing at Naruto. 2 of them already had ninja wires wrapped him up as they moved forward. In moments, he was so secured, he couldn't even wiggle his fingers right now because of lightning. He wondered if this was a normal precaution, or if this was because of him. He wondered if his name was getting out there. That was almost impressive, Leaf Hugger, the Jonin said, once he was sure that Naruto was not going anywhere. If we didn't know that you guys would try your luck again, you might have just slipped past us. I am curious though, how you thought you'd escape this quietly. But I guess that doesn't really matter now, does it? He snapped his fingers on the Chunin, providing the folding chair. It was clear they wasn't going to waste time with this. Who slipped the intelligence and where the daimyo son is going to be? As Naruto smirked as one of Chunin stepped forward and backhanded him across his face. But the man shook his hand at the pain. What the hell? He thought to himself. I asked you a question, Jonin said. Well, it was a rather dumb question, Naruto said, giving the man a smirk. You should have asked who didn't leak that the daimyo's son wouldn't be here. In the other room, Naruto smirked as he placed on a gas mask. Suddenly, the Naruto in front of them started to melt away as Dummy exploded with a gas mask all over the room as the Chunins fell instantly. The Jonin was a little harder as he held his breath and dived straight towards the exit. The 2-second he waits trying to pull the door off though with the adhesive that the spider placed on it. That was enough to get him, as this knockout gas can be absorbed through the skin. By the time he staggered outside, Raimia smashed right into him and sent him sailing into the room as he collapsed. As Naruto gave that meant to dissipate, but he still did not remove the gas mask because this was very important. They always think you're so clever with their ambushes, Naruto said, as he turned the Jonin over his foot. You tangle such a bait in front of us. You should know that it will be taken. As he made Arakun swallow the man. The Jonin was the main target, as he should be knowing where the daimyo son is going to be held. But the Chunin made for nice bonuses. He shrugged though. That was IT department to worry about. Time skip. Seriously, how much money do you have? Asked Hanabi, as she stepped into what she felt like a desert. The heat rushed over her as she stepped into the miniature fort. It looked like something you would see in a real blacksmith place. As Naruto wasn't even using this place anymore. Enough, said Naruto as he used a magnifying glass to look at this long, thin wire. Where does it all come from? I know that you don't go on enough missions to afford all of this. Naruto shrugged. Of course he went on a lot of missions, and he could afford this lifestyle if he wanted to. But that was the point. If he started to spend out of his means though, then that would be the time that people start to get suspicious. But that didn't really concern him because money will never be etched to him. After all, he was getting a percentage of Wave Country. And most of that money was reinvested to keep his growing network operational, and that was bringing him in new money every time. As Rika, she was perfect for the job. Even when he found out that she was skimming a bit off the top, he just spoke to her as he gave her a pay increase. And he also had plenty more working as well, working in different fields. The system started to get large. It started to split into contact, economics, civilians, and shinobi's matter. It was keeping track of everything was paying well. At least he was managing. When he didn't answer, Hanabi asked a different question. So, how go the war that you started? She asked. Instigated, said Naruto. What's the difference? Well, you were applying that I was the root cause of the war. I was just excelling what was already there, said Naruto. As if that makes it any better, she asked. Of course it does, said Naruto. I'm a horrible monster that is completely and selfish out for his own interests. As he tapped his headband, didn't you get that from this? Not all ninja are like that, she said. But he simply gave her a shrug. She understand what that shrug means. Say what you want, but you're wrong. She was even starting to understand his body language to such a degree. It was kind of depressing when you think of it. To answer your question, predictably, I suspect that it will be over in about 3 months. That took her off guard. 3 months? It would have been 2, but the Sand is our ally. Yesterday, no doubt hoping to garner some goodwill after what they did in the invasion. But why would the Sand extend the war, she asked. Right now, Kumo has cut quite a healthy chunk out of the Fire Country, making numerous strategic land change in the form of small towns in the area. In a normal war, we would call that winning. It is like they forgot they were fighting shinobi. Konoha has been slowly cutting and sacrificing ground while taking down Kumo's economical structure. In about 2 months, they will find that everything has been dried up, which Konoha will launch a brutal counterattack and take back every single land that they lost rather quickly. And the Sand, she asked. She never thought her home village was so ruthless. With them obviously trying to mend bridges to try to help us, the Hokage will stretch the war just a little so they can be seen making a contribution. It is very irritating that we even have to accept the traitors, but I can understand logic. A Sand that is distant from a Sand that is enemy. Well, which one will be the better, said Naruto. Nara Shikaku is a very dangerous man. I'm glad that he's on our side, said Naruto. How do you know all of this, she asked. This sounded like the stuff that was discussed in high level rooms that was sealed off. And he was talking about like he was in those meetings. One of the envoys who preside over the meetings get loose lip with one of the pretty waitresses at the Golden Leaf. They rotate them out regularly, but I put the pieces together, said Naruto. And the waitress asked Hanabi. I'm helping her set up a lingerie boutique, if I remember correctly, he said. Even kunoichis like to get a bit dolled up every now and then. As Hanabi took a moment to, well, think about all of that, as she knew that he had a long reach. And in her mind, she knew that it wasn't only limited to Konoha, but she didn't want to think about that now. So, how go the pet project, she asked. Turns out heating up chakra metal to a degree don't make it, well, conductible anymore. 1 step forward, 10 back, she said. The heat in this place started to get to her as she left. As Naruto picked up one of the wires, as he looked at it, as he tried to remember that sensation from that day, and just for a split second, he saw a orange chakra dash to the wire. Time skip, mission A. Join operative with the Sand Squad. Requested because of ties with Sand Puppeteer Corps. Aid with mixing Nin disturbance along Kazekone border. Cooperation mission rank for diplomatic reasons. The mood was a bit, well, pent up as the group was sitting around the campfire. As Naruto looked up from his rations, looking up at the group that was just staring, as their face was wrapped up. They must be hot in those things. It would be better for out there in the sand, but Out here in these regions, it was not. As Naruto was dressed light, in a light jacket with less pockets. But that wasn't the reason for the tense mood. These were puppeteers as they were looking at him, as he wondered what Conqueror had said about him, or if the other puppeteer's opinion even carried any weight with these people. The fourth Kazekage was dead, but his children were supposed to be quite prominent within their roles. Or, that was what his agents in the village told him. They still hadn't set a new leader, but he was sure that he would get around to it any day now. But it certainly was going to be one of these idiots. As he looked back down at his food, as he noticed one of them glance towards him, as he observed the food for a moment, standard rations, nothing special, as he slowly got to his feet, as he placed a hand to his throat. At last, poor fate. It seems I've been poisoned, he said. Who could have seen this on Jice? Poor fate fall upon me. By now the others around the fire were glaring at him, as the leader stood up. Rather Bill Jonin, as the man spat into the fire. Shit, it's a puppet. Conqueror warned us that he could imitate himself. He turned away as he scanned the trees all around him. What a twisted irony this is, Naruto said. That I would fall to my brethren across from the sands. Brothers in our myriad mastery of our puppets. The Jonin spin around towards one of the girls of the group. I thought you would be able to tell if he switched to a puppet. Why do we bring you otherwise? I would, I swear, she said. He must have been a puppet all along. Damn it, the man said. Spread out. Find where he's hiding and don't screw up this time. As he turned to the woman once again, you, watch this one. If it doesn't explode, destroy it. The rest of you, move, he said. And so it is, Naruto said, as he collapsed down. What a cruel fate to be betrayed. And death. She knew that she should have destroyed it, but it was so, enticing for her to see. She wanted to know how exactly was he able to trick them by switching with the puppet, because that wasn't possible. She was watching the entire time. So that meant from the moment the mission started, he was a puppet. She was a new addition to the puppet corps. So to study a new puppet, the style of a new puppet, she couldn't pass that up. As she carefully moved over, still a bit worried that the entire puppet would just explode outwards. As she paused before slowly turning it over, and that pause caused her as something stabbing back for her neck. As her vision went hazy before everything went black. As Naruto rolled over on the ground, as he pulled out a vial out of his pocket and drank it. That had been a little risky even for him, but he was better than taking on the entire squad together. He stood up as he plucked the Senmon out of her neck. She wasn't dead, just unconscious. He cracked his neck as he could feel the poison fading away. Seriously, pure animal venom? He felt insulted as he pulled out a scroll, as there was a poof as Raimia emerged. It's time for the hunters to become the hunted. Time skip. Hanabi watched as Naruto had this aura around him that said he didn't want to be disturbed, as the room was now filled with different machines inside that he was trying to work on the chakra wires with. She was a bit curious about his mood. He told her about the mission with the sand and how they betrayed him. She thought he would be happy that he got to test his puppet against so many other puppeteers, but instead he was pissed off that Hokage would sweep the entire thing under the rug so their relationship with the sand won't worsen any further. But Naruto had been compensated, of course, most of it going towards his very project, but it was the principle of the matter that irked him a lot. As she could understand him, senior attackers just walk out of everything with just getting a slap on the wrist. It must have made him pissed off. It annoyed her that she was understanding him. Why was she? But he must be really good with puppets. He was able to mop up all of the specialized puppet core users. That was their art. He was not from the village and he was able to learn Puppeteer. And he was able to defeat all of them with just one puppet. You're strong, aren't you? She asked. He turned, as his eyebrow relaxed just a bit. He probably didn't even know that she was in here lately. He had been relaxing. He just been calm around her, not doing anything, like keeping on his guard, like he was originally doing. She wasn't sure how to feel about that. Not really, he said. The answer caught her off guard. Most ninjas always brag about how strong they are. What do you mean, she asked. He was strong. How else would he do all the things that he has accomplished so far? Well, there's plenty of people more powerful than me, he said slowly. People better at taijutsu, genjutsu. People who could outclass one of my puppets with a sword, or know a lot more juice than I do. I'm just really good at puppets. I can think on my feet, and I have a lot of chakra. But you just beat the entire squad of Chunin and their captain, said Hanabi. So, he said, as he grabbed a kunai out of a box. You can be a master of all forms of taijutsu, but a kunai in the spine will still kill you. You could be able to enslave an entire village with a genjutsu. but a deep enough cut on your thigh would kill you. As he set the weapon back down. No one is all powerful, all it takes is one mistake, your guard lowered at the point, and you're dead. As his mind drifted to a pink hair for just a moment, before he shook his head, I'm not strong. Not stronger than any other human. I just have no interest in dying yet. As he left her to think on that, as he moved back to the machine. As he pulled out a long wire and smiled, Hanabi activated her beacon as her jaw nearly dropped. The small thread in his hand was filled with chakra. As you couldn't tell different from a chakra system you could see within his own body. He done it. But that's perseverance, said Naruto, with a smile on his face. Time skip. Naruto stood rather, self-conscious as he stood in the middle of Hokage's office. When he was told by the Anvu that Hokage wished to see him, he never expected this. Shikaku Naru was there, the Anvu commander was there, as Danzo Shirami was there, and Sarutobi old teammate as well. All of them were just examining the 15-year-old like he was some slab of meat. In comparison, Naruto looked like a mess. He was waist deep inside one of his puppets. He was working on something very difficult when he was summoned, and he was exhausted, as his hair was messy than usual. Chunin Uzumaki, I trust that you're unaware of why you were called here, Hiruzen said as he concealed a small smirk. As Naruto didn't say anything for a few seconds as Shikaku spoke. It regards your mission records, said Shikaku, as he was tapping a folder on the desk that looked rather thick. Yes, it was rather thick, considering that his career was only a few years old. Is there a problem, said Naruto, as he was calmer now than before, because if they had found out about the Hyuga problem, they wouldn't have called him here. He would have been, captured. Quite the opposite, Naruto, said Hiruzen. We had our eye on you for a while, but it has been decided that you qualify for the rank of Jonin. He smiled as he reached under the desk and pulled out a green flak jacket. Naruto tried to say something, but the words stuck in his throat. Of all the things he considered for this meeting, this was not one of them. Your last mission, despite its complications, the Anvu commander said, was very impressive. Have you considered joining the Corps? As Hiruzen chuckled as he looked up at the wolf Anvu masked man, trying to poach my operative already. The man didn't twitch or anything, as Hiruzen turned back Naruto. The Anvu commander is correct. I was most impressed that you managed to handle yourself against 3 Jonins. As Naruto gave a cocky smirk, it's not so hard when you know the ambush is coming. As his arm drifted towards his arm that was wrapped up in bandages, the burn should heal, without any scars, but it had hurt. Danzo clicked his teeth as he looked rather, he didn't look pleased with this. Something to add, Danzo, said Hiruzen. My complaints are well noted already, Hiruzen. That's an awful casual way to address your leader, don't you think, old man, said Naruto. But he was speaking to Hiruzen, not Danzo. Don't press your luck, the Anvu commander stated, as Naruto wondered who was under that mask. It's quite alright, Hiruzen said. I think Jonin Uzumaki has earned the right to be a bit glib today. Now, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but I need to make sure you understand your new position. Naturally, as a Jonin, you'll be able to submit for a genuine squad. As Naruto's face scrunched up just a bit, as Hiruzen break his mask of seriousness and chuckled just a bit. Although of course this is optional. Likewise, you have full access to Jonin place of the village, including the library and the training facilities, and the lounge, said Shikaku with a smirk. And the commissary, he said. You will have greater freedom in the mission choices, although you will still be called upon for missions that are because of your skills in your art, or if you get requested by a client. Considering that we're still at war, you shouldn't be surprised if you're called, and to head multiple squads of Chunin at a time. Any questions? Asked Hiruzen. Naruto shook his head no. As everyone started to leave the room, as Naruto decided to leave as well. Just a minute, Naruto, said Hiruzen, as Naruto stopped and turned back around. I just want to take the moment to congratulate you personally. Plus, he says he pulled out a black book. I thought you would appreciate this. As he flipped the book open and slicked it towards Naruto. As Naruto saw the picture that he'd taken after Chunin promotion. A little out of date, but he hasn't changed much since then. Name, Naruto Uzumaki. Alias, none. Rank, Chunin. Classification, B, Puppeteer. Ninjutsu, unknown. Genjutsu, unknown. Taijutsu. Expected poor. Fuinjutsu. Expected moderate. Special notes. Puppeteer, displaying. Ninjutsu with puppeteering. Caution, the advice. Known to mimic himself with a puppet. Underneath was some blurry photos of his puppets that looked like they were taken in the Chunin exams. He couldn't help but grin. B rank was not that much, but he was in the system now. This was going straight up on his wall next to the clipping of Sasuke's profile. How soon can I expect to update Naruto asked? He was at Jonin now. He want people to know it. I expect around 2 days, said Hiruzen. They will get a more recent photo as well. Well, I'll have to put a bit more effort, said Naruto. No alias, that has to change. How are you doing, Naruto asked Hiruzen. As Naruto turned back towards him, Hokage-sama, he said. It's been a long time since the two of us shared a bowl of ramen, hasn't it? As Naruto got calm a bit, his relationship with the Hokage has been a decent one, ever since the display of his puppetry. Since then, Naruto was just too busy. I am hardly 8-year-old anymore, and I suspect that you're too busy to just goof off with one of your subordinates like that. Yes, a sad truth of a job that I hardly have time for the things that feel more important to an old man like me. Self-defecation doesn't suit you, said Naruto. I am certain that you can take majority of ninjas in the village, probably in the continent. I think you would be surprised. But thank you for humoring an old man. But anyway, this wasn't supposed to be about me. I asked you to hang back for another reason. You're an intelligent young man, Naruto, so I won't belittle you. And considering that you don't know what I'm talking about. As Naruto kept himself perfectly calm, no doubt you have noticed certain peculiarities about yourself. As your, well, body grows. Especially your large chakra capacity. Naruto almost wanted to sign relief because he thought the Hokage was going on to something. So apparently Jonins are able to be told what everyone in the village already knows. As he took a bit too much pleasure in the Hokage winks. You're talking about the Kyuubi, right? Here's a sigh. I suppose that it was too much to ask that you wouldn't figure it out until I told you, right? You know, it actually irritated me in hindsight. To how obvious it was. My birthday, the way I was treated growing up, and the seal on my stomach, well, that was just recently discovered. It's not like I make a habit of channeling large amount of chakra shirtless in front of a mirror, so I wouldn't find it that quickly. As he neglected to tell the old man the fact that Hanabi was the one who noticed it first. Then there's the orange chakra, Naruto said. Hiruzen eyes widened. You tapped into the Kyuubi's chakra? He sounded quite alarmed at that. Not consistently, no, said Naruto. Only once, in the invasion, it allowed me to animate a puppet that would have been too big to move otherwise. I've been trying to tap into it since, but I get sporadic results at best. Naruto, I must ask that you stop experimenting with that chakra unsupervised at once. It's incredibly unstable and a dangerous source of power, but also incredibly powerful, right? Once I figured out, I did my research. Jinjulkis are pretty uncommon, but not exactly a myth. If I master the Kyuubi's power, that will be a huge advantage, right? Hiruzen went quiet for a few seconds. He then spoke. The truth is, Naruto, we have no idea. While yes, other Jinjulkis have met with various success, the Kyuubi is simply different. There is no case of one of his containers using his power safely. But it's worth a try, right, said Naruto as he felt excited. He would have experimented with the power anyway. That is not up to me, said Hiruzen. Yeah, said a voice. You leave that kind of stuff up to the Seal Masters. Jiraiya, you could have introduced yourself normally. You were invited to the promotion meeting, said Hiruzen. Where would the fun in that be? Besides, who said I wasn't at the meeting? You're going to give my guards an anxiety attack one of these days. As Jiraiya pointed his finger towards one of the corners, before giving the female envoy there a wink. As Naruto said nothing, he just watched all of this. As he had heard of Jiraiya, but he never thought that the man acted like this. So, you've been messing around with powers beyond your comprehension. I know you need the one. The only bona fide, electrified, certified, toad, sage of Mount Miyaboku. To sort you out. Please just get on with it, Jiraiya, said Hiruzen. Alright. Brass tacks it is, he said. Know that you know. We'll have your suspicions confirmed over the Kyuubi. We can't just let you go around flinging that power all the way. Enough Jinjulki has gone mad from doing that, consumed by the thing that they contain. So you, my lucky little Jonin, have the honor of being trained by yours truly. We'll make sure you can use a fox chakra safely. As Naruto simply nodded. Time skip. Useless, said Naruto, as he sat down, as his arm was scorched. New skin reforming. Training. That is what he called it. As Hanabi knew who he was talking about. As, after hearing about Tsunade Senju, she knew of her teammate Jiraiya, but the way Naruto described him, she never thought he'd act that way. But he must know what he's doing, right, said Hanabi. If you think him being there and watching while I rage out of control is a good plan, yeah, it is, because any idiot can come up with that plan, said Naruto. But you said he loosened the seal to do it. Surely only he can do something like that, she said. As Naruto looked down, the seal was still in his stomach. Chakra was going through his body to repair the damage that was done to him. Remind me to thank him for screwing up my control for next week. Honestly, if that's all the Kyuubi power does, turning me into a mindless berserker, I think I can do without it. You would turn down a source of power like that, said Hanabi. She was surprised. Yes, I'm a puppeteer, not an exact engaged, direct source, as he had used the beast's power once already. He just had to find out how did he do it. Hanabi bearded huff as she walked towards the door to get some training, as she thought that she could have some fun at his injured expense. Then I don't see the problem, just do it yourself. Like how you do everything else, she said, as she slammed the door behind her, as he looked towards the door. He was sure that she meant it as an insult, because of his ability not able to open up to people. But that struck something inside him. Why wasn't he doing it himself? He had never forced himself to rely on people before. Was he going to change because a legend was involved? Jerry knew as little as anyone else. He was just tough enough to take the beating. As he slid across, going towards his book, he's sure that he has collected something on containment seal. But guys, to be in subs right here. If you want the next part of this, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn the bell notifications to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And yeah, I'm out for now, guys. See you guys soon. Peace.